Alright, alarm, alarm, alarm to armed citizen. Is it not so fucking annoying, a stupid toxin? So I'll stop this right now and I'll shout the same thing in French. Alarme, alarme aux armes citoyens, c'est-tu pas assez fatigant? Un hostie de toxin, fait que je vais l'arrêter immédiatement. La publication d'aujourd'hui va être principalement en anglais. La raison, c'est qu'on est juste deux sur la ligne et puis Maureen Weirs, que vous connaissez sûrement déjà. Sinon, bienvenue sur ma chaîne. De toute façon, elle parle juste en anglais, donc on va faire ça en anglais. Euh, Puis on va essayer de faire ce cours. On va arrêter le toxin, enlever VLC. Maureen, welcome to my channel.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm not so happy today. We were supposed to have a different type of broadcast with many people, but they're lacking electricity back east, so we'll have to do it the two of us. You were not scheduled to be here, but you kindly accepted to do this at a moment's notice. Not even today. We don't have a real schedule, but we do have something to say. The very first thing I'll say is happy birthday, and not to you. But happy birthday to the judgment of the grand jury, which on 17th of October 2015. So it's now reaching 4 years without a true opposition to it. Anyway, nobody has a valid, legal, lawful, or constitutional reason to oppose grand jury. Beside it, that one that we've done was morally necessary, and it is an historical fact that grand jury are something that exists in Canada. Based on common law and 800 years of Magna Carta, which was never repealed in any way, shape, or form. And anyone who tried, in the past to repeal the Magna Carta hit a wall, and the wall has fallen on him a long time ago. It is still valid, common law, and this is why the SRPC that you know of, the Royal Public Society of Canada, has been reestablished, right?
Right.
All right, you're a member of it, right?
I am so. I'm the Lieutenant Governor de jure of Alberta.
And I am not a member, right? I'm just the service clown. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're our technical
Technical
over.
assistance, right? All right, and also until further notice, some sort of counsel. Um, Maybe later I'll step into the SRPC because I've never done so up until now, even though I am the founding human of it. And by the way, if it's the first time that you join my channel, we're not talking legalese here, we're talking plain English. So even if I use the word person, it means human. Legalese, as we know, comes from the Black Law Dictionary and is a fraud. So this is the reason why we are recording today. We'll try to keep that short. It may end up being 6 hours, who knows? But for the moment, we have only one thing planned. I spoke to Angèle Prince over the phone just a moment ago. Like I said, she cannot be here because lack of electricity. We were supposed to have the Lieutenant Governor de jure, always de jure, of Quebec here today to do something similar in French, but yeah, we couldn't get them. So because of what I just said. So here's what she told me to tell you, and it'll be up to you to call it. I'm just a messenger. You are hereby authorized to declare the state of emergency for Canada, and the reason being generalized fraud. And so now the floor is up to you.
Wow. I'm not quite sure what to say to that.
Well,
Certainly,
you know that there's a de
there is.
facto corporation managing Canada since 19 whatever 37, I think, and if not before that, you know that, right?
Correct. Yes.
And it's now time that they go away, right? Because they're obviously based on a grand jury and the evidence that was sent there, a illegitimate organization.
They most certainly are.
So therefore, you are hereby authorized to, and it's not me, I have no role in the SRPC, but you are hereby, if you wish to do so, hereby authorized to declare the state of emergency for a country called Canada.
So that we can right the wrongs. Or at least put a structure in place to begin the process
Well,
of writing.
this is already in process. It's been going on for 2 years, and this, as the grand jury, has not faced any kind of opposition because it's legal, lawful, and constitutional to do so. It has been awaiting 88 years as it was figured out in Falcon Lake. So once again, the floor is yours to declare if you wish so. If you don't wish, just tell me no and shut my mouth,
Well, you know what? I'm not familiar with this, so it's not something that I've done before,
obviously.
obviously. Um, like on what are you basing, is she basing this conclusion?
Well, the fraud that has been going on for 88 years, trying to pretend that they are the government of Canada and of the so-called province, and when they are clearly not. And because there's a bunch of other thing that needs to be done following this. Off the top of my head, a few things just like that. Canada Post needs to be reestablished as a public society and not the private corporation that it is now. Same thing as for the Bank of Canada. It needs to be reestablished to what it's been, or for the intent it was created of. Another issue is BC Ferry, which is supposed to be part of the highway system for Canada, which is
Yeah,
obviously not. It's a private corporation, and once again, and so on. There are so many. The list is so long. I can't do it right now. The WMB, Worker Compensation Board, WCB, right?
WCB, yeah.
Yeah, and the equivalent in Quebec, all the same thing. It's all private corporation. The license plate for each province is the same thing.
The registries,
The,
yeah,
uh,
they're
yeah,
all private.
so if this is not matter of an emergency now, so what is in the end? We're not talking about a natural disaster here like the way there was in Winnipeg last week, or rather in Manitoba last week, or it's not the Rockies falling over Calgary. It's not that type of emergency. It's a legal national emergency that we're having now. Um, so based on what you've learned in the past year or so, do you think it's now time that
We step up,
so
absolutely.
so then you have many cause and evidence to declare the state of emergency, right?
Right. We've identified so many injustices and put out so many reports, and now we're just spinning in circles, rehashing the same old topics again and again. And it's time now to stop that and start with some action.
All right. So
So you're looking for the words "I declare"
on behalf of the
on
SRPC
on behalf of the SRPC.
and the name of the king, of course.
I declare that our nation is in a state of emergency, and it's time, Canadians, that we move forward with some actions rather than just rhetoric and rehashing of all of the deception that we uncover.
Somebody much wiser than I am said before me, and I'm only repeating that the shortest route from A to B is a straight line and certainly not turning in circle. So there will be a need for some action following this declaration, but to put it very shortly, it's to invalidate, and that has been done already, but now with the state of emergency to shred every commercial license that was ever issued since the coup d'etat in Canada and start fresh. The good news,
Because those contracts were done illegally by
yes,
the de facto.
yes, yes. And the trial has been closed a long time ago, so it's now time that the judgment be put forward, um, and that the people know the state of the situation. Uh, which brings me to the following question. Are you gaining personally any benefits from the fraud that has been going on or the solution that has been put forward to stop the fraud?
Absolutely nothing. Everything I do is voluntary, and it's just because I see what's wrong in Canada, and I wish to help provide a solution.
You do this to be famous for glory or any other type of other benefit?
No, there's better ways to become famous than to set up a society and work with a society that's providing an option for a different system of governance. That's for sure. It's not easy. There's no rule book. There's no playbook. We're working through it one step at a time, and yeah, I have nothing to gain from doing this.
Have you noticed in the world, different type of question, but on a similar topic, that the same thing is appearing to be happening at the same time in other part of the world, France, Great
Absolutely,
Britain, United States, wherever?
there is civil unrest in just about every country, and a simple Google search will point you out to that. Current videos that I watched today that were shared with me: civil unrest in Britain, civil unrest in France, civil unrest in the United States, and of course we've got our own here as well.
Yeah, I can point at what happened last week in Victoria, 3 weeks ago in Hamilton. Victoria is in British Columbia, Hamilton is in Ontario, and about a month and a half to 2 months, I don't have the right date, in Toronto, which is once again in Ontario. But right now, you are right, in the world, no later than a few days ago, I don't have the exact date, but the video was shared with me yesterday that police is now openly opposing the firefighter in France, and the firefighters they're the true hero, while the police there, the anti-riot people especially, are just parasite protecting the elite, which is trying to effectively start a civil war everywhere they can, sorry. And as for the United States, we've seen plenty of example of civil unrest, any type of it, for a while now. It's not only being in the few days that has just passed. It's been going on so far. Yesterday, I was watching a movie about what happened in 1967 in Detroit, and they've never solved the issue since then. There's no justice possible. We now have in Canada, or the Corporation of Canada, not the country, political prisoner all over, whether they stay there for years or not, but we have several of them. Um, and right now, there are some people who cannot access justice because they're in front of commercial court. So,
That's right. And so much fraud and corruption has been exposed within our court systems, within the judicial system, and within the, the lawyers, and how they work together to to free criminals, or to let criminals off a little bit easier than others.
well, let me
And
ask you this question this way. What's the benefit for a lawyer? Does he benefit if there's no criminal act committed? Or his interest lays into freeing them back into the streets so they can work again?
well, there must be some benefit, and I'm assuming it's some sort of financial reward for him to do such a thing. I don't really know you know, other than that, I don't know what benefit a lawyer would have for participating in blackmail or such.
Speaking of fraud, I'd like to link it with a different type of business which also benefits from the generalized fraud, and is the mining corporation. At least 60% of all the mining corporation in the world are registered at the Toronto Stock Exchange, and most of the rest is also registered in Canada as well in other jurisdictions than the Toronto Stock Exchange. Uh, but have they got for the past 100 years, if not more, a free access to the underground resource of Canada, and stolen effectively from the people by doing so. To
Correct.
so
Not only mining, all types of resource extraction: water, electricity,
trees,
trees, forestry. Yes, absolutely.
wind, even
Oil
wind.
and gas, wind.
So is it not time, and I'm not talking on my behalf here, I'm talking about my research and some documentary that has been done before me, but even in the region of Sudbury, and I'm not speaking on their behalf either, but I know for a fact that some of the elected, so-called elected in a Canada Corporation and so on have stated and been elected on the fact in the past of nationalization of these resources. But the question that I have about that, is it a necessity to nationalize, or are they effectively been stolen from the nation? That's the question.
They've been stolen,
So
absolutely.
they are ours to begin with. There's no
They are.
need to, let's say, make a declaration of nationalization in in these type of resource. Uh, and it's just to settle down the people who would think, oh, that's a communism measure. It's not a communism measure. It belongs to each and every one of us by nature, not by political ideology. This type
Or
of
false contracts.
or false contract. Thank you very much. Same thing as Canada Post. It is strategic business, if we can call it that way. Remember, we don't do legalese here, so don't try to get us into that or to up because I just declare, oh, he's talking about commerce now. It's something we need to be put forward as a service to all the citizens at the lowest cost possible, serving everybody as best as we can. It doesn't matter if that specific business makes money or not. Like Canada Post is the best example. What do we care if Canada Post doesn't make a cent? If they go bankrupt, it doesn't matter. We still need the service, is it not?
It's a strategic resource, and it ties all communities together
Good. So let's
throughout our
extend that
nation.
back to natural resource, because obviously Canada is Canada Post, the Royal Canadian or the Society of Canada, sorry, the Postal Society of Canada. But let's tie back that to natural resource. Is gold, as an example, or nickel, or copper, or aluminum, or iron, is this strategical resource?
Absolutely.
Good.
It
So
helps our country. Um, it helps our country be self-sufficient.
Well, speaking of self-sufficiency, do you know that in the region of Sudbury and the basin of Sudbury in Ontario, and I'm sorry if I forget the name of the town there, don't take offense if I forgot to name you, but in the greater region of Sudbury, do you know that it's the only place in the world where they extract nickel to do stainless steel?
Yeah, that's not something I was aware of.
Well, then you must be aware that since 100 years we've been digging in that hole. We've been extracting all this material. We have not transformed more than we did 100 years ago, but we're exporting 5 times as much resource now. So all
So
these
we export our nickel
raw,
to people
yeah,
like China, to
and
countries like China
United States and
and
other
United
places,
States,
United
and they
Kingdom.
use it to produce steel
Yeah, and send it back
and
to us
then sell it
three
back
times.
to us.
Yeah, 3 times the cost. So wouldn't it be wise just to put, and I know it's a polluting industry, it's not a matter of that, but wouldn't it be wiser, instead of shipping that all the way across the world to get just to get it back, to just put a plant down there, get the plus value that goes onto it, create local job for the people who work there, because the mining industry in 100 years ago, there was 18,000 worker in the greater region of Sudbury extracting this resource. Now there's only 4,000 of them. So they've
Right.
lost a lot of
Absolutely.
wealth within that process.
The trade deals that uh, go along with our resources are definitely not good for our country. In the end, we lose jobs, we lose money,
And we give them the free resource.
and we give them the free resources.
Imagine
And it's just like the coal production in Canada. In BC, coal production has grown where it's been shut down in other provinces. And it's not grown for use in BC, it's grown for export to
I
foreign
know
countries.
BC doesn't need coal to get electricity. We have dams,
Hydro.
hydro, yeah, and it works, and we have a surplus anyway. And right now, in my area, they are spending $12 billion for a dam we absolutely don't need. All of our needs are covered for. We even have a surplus right now, and they're building another dam. We really
Yeah.
don't need it.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're
So we
spending
need
12
to, yeah,
billion dollar for no reason. Of course, it does economic good for this region because the people are working, But in the end, if we're building that to export electricity, we don't need it. May as well just take this $12 billion and just dump check on everybody just to stay home instead of destroying the environment on 100 kilometer square kilometer to build that dam because it needs a reservoir to go with it.
Right. There's so many examples and so many resources that are being stolen from us
Well,
right from under our feet.
gold is the best example. We have extracted gold for to the extent of $100 billion since we've started that in northern Quebec and northern Ontario. Once again, from Sudbury to Val d'Or and Rouyn-Noranda, there's still $100 billion in the soil available now and it's a small estimate, and that's just in that basin, not excluding the rest of the country, and it's a huge country. And yet, the reserve and the vault of gold for Canada,
Zero. It was sold off.
zero. How can that be? We have a $100 billion industry and we have nothing. Nothing.
And that's an emergency in itself if the the paper dollar crashes. We have no gold.
It's already crashed, Maureen. It's already people are looking for hyperinflation. But let me tell you something. We are there already. When I was young, things wouldn't cost so much, but then the salary wouldn't be so high as they are. But if I compare my youth to yours, because you're a little older than I am, there's still a difference. We've had hyperinflation. My father would pay a three apartment building 25,000 people. Today, I cannot even get a single family home for $250,000. That's 10 times the price for a single family dwelling compared to a dwelling that would house three family.
Absolutely.
So it's hyperinflation. It's here. It's been here for a while. If you don't understand that, when I was young, when I was 14, my father gave me $1, and it was a paper dollar. It was a square, a rectangle bill back then, not the coins that we have now. I'd go to the convenience store, get a liter of milk, and I would have 12 candies on top of that because they were 1 cent each. Now the same little candy that was worth 1 cent when I was young is 5 cents, and you cannot even buy them by the unit plus. Not to say that the liter of milk is not 88 cents anymore. It's $1.83.
Yeah. Well, I would be aging myself if I told my story, but I'm going to anyways. I would get a quarter every Friday for my allowance, my weekly allowance for doing my chores, and I could go to the store and I could buy a can of pop, a bottle of can of pop, a bag of chips, and 15 penny candies for that 25 cents.
Well, my father, when he was young, he was with the same 25 cent, he could get five times what I'm about to say. For a nickel, he'd get a bottle of pop, a fry, and a hot dog
Wow.
for a nickel when he was young.
Yeah.
But of course, my father was born in 1925, so it makes he's dead now. But that
So the real problem with this is for some of our marginalized citizens in this country, seniors who are on a fixed income, um, disabled people or people who receive financial assistance from the government who are on fixed incomes. With the inflation, their incomes are not rising to match, and they're just barely making ends meet. And not only that, the homeless population is rising because there are more and more that aren't able to make ends meet.
and more at the same rate. Houses are boarded in Canada and withheld by the bank, who've sold us all the private banking system cartel, who've
Right, that's
sold
true too. You see a lot of vacancies, um,
uh,
but no way of managing some sort of program to provide housing for the homeless.
yes. So if this isn't and it's even true for the commercial stuff. When I think about your own province, half of downtown Calgary is effectively empty, even if you don't see it because it's behind high-rise glass. It's still the same thing. And one very good indicator of an economic crash in a country is how many tire gets sold in a year. That is a very good indicator of how the wealth is going in a country. And right now, there is a very high downfall in many countries of the world on how many tires. I don't have the exact figure for Canada, but I'm sure it's following the trend, the trend that is going on in the world. That and they're never going to tell you that openly because nobody, you can't see something you don't look for. So therefore, they're not looking for it. So, but if I go to the tire store, I'm sure they're selling less and less. Why? People are working less and less. They're not traveling for the leisure, and the trucks are not driving stuff from A to B. So, but we could see that if we would be asking these type of questions, but they are not asking these questions. Therefore, there's no real answer for it. So this is where we stand right now. I don't want this to last too long. We're already 25 minutes into the recording. And the question that will arise following this type of broadcast today is what the heck will you do about it, right?
That is the question.
Well, the question has already been answered. It's been answered 2 years ago. The SRPC is there, it's ready to go, and we need people to step in and not corrupted people. We've had enough of them. You know what to expect when you trust these people, but the trust is has been spent now. They're
I've been thinking about that a lot the last few days. There's periods of time where I have higher confidence and periods of time where I have lower confidence. And I've been thinking like, what what makes me eligible to be de jure lieutenant governor for Alberta? And then I look at our elected representatives and I think, what doesn't make me eligible? They're no better than I. We're all individuals, and I would rather work with a bunch of individuals who understand what it's like to be poor, who understand what it's like to be laid off, who understand what it's like to struggle to feed your family, than individuals who have been raised in an environment of elitism and have no way of understanding what the lifestyle is of the rest of the
well,
population.
I
These
w
people are groomed for positions,
oh yeah.
they're selected for positions. We need people, everyday people that just have good heart and good intent to step up and let's get moving on this. We've highlighted, even just in this conversation, um, the wasting of our resources, the raping of our resources, the destruction of our judicial system, a number of things, right? And how do we get that back? It's not going to come back under the present system.
No, it's corrupted. And like I said to you several times over our phone conversation no later than yesterday, one bad apple spoiled the whole damn bunch. And it comes from a Guns N' Roses song, but who cares? It's right. If you have a bundle of apple and one is rotten, it will spread very quickly, but if you take it out of the bundle, the rest is going to be good for a while. So yes, that's what we need to do, and I include myself into that we because it's my country as much as other people. And we do have a solid foundation now that has been laid up for the people to build on, but unfortunately, we're not setting up a dictatorship or thing would change in a hurry. It would be really easy to start dictating to how things should be done instead of how things are done now because it's fraudulent the system that you have now and nobody can really accuse us in fact, oh, you're trying to destroy the free market. Look, buddy, if you don't understand there's no free fucking market for the past 100 year, you need some fucking invasive psychological or psychiatric help right now. Because there's not it's not an invention of my mind. When you really look at thing, everything is upside down, everything is a lie, everything is a fraud. So and everybody's corrupted in the end. Even I, as a retired military, I do accept a check that comes from the corporation every month. I'd rather that to stop and go back to work in the Navy where I was, but I can't medically speaking. So I understand that we are all to some extent corrupted. But if on top of that you choose to be blind, then you have no excuses for it. At least I know that the check that I receive is fraudulent. But the thing is, like everybody, I also understand I live in this system, and the cashier at the shop where I go, at the grocery store where I go and shop, will not let me get away with my needed food for the month if I don't give them some stupid corrupted bill. But she's willing to accept them, so I don't have to fight for it. So that's the beauty of it. But I mean, if like Maureen said earlier, those paper bill are worth nothing based on nothing, and you don't know about it when it's obvious if you do search for it, you have no excuse once again. So that's why we're doing these videos, so people at least get a chance to put in place another type of system which has never really existed, because it's been so long that the fraud has been going in. We were born into it. We were all issued a birth certificate, if we want to speak for about legalese for a moment, which is the base of the fraudulent system. You've been sold as collateral,
Slaves to the system.
slaves to the system. And I'd like to correct you when you say, and I know why you use the term elite, but they're not the elite. In fact, they're the scum of the earth. Everything is so
Absolutely.
upside down that even that is upside down. They're parasite. They're the
They
one who
are.
benefit from the system of enslavement to, and it was never about the money. People who were going to watch that, because they have the control of the printing press and the banking cartel. So it was never about the money. They have all the money in the world. They want to buy everything they wish. No problems. It's about control. That's the reason behind it, and the fact that there was always a plan. And I'm not saying it's a conspiracy theory. It was always there, if you want to check it out, to conquer the world.
And it's evident. There's so many different like the Pope is talking about it. If you search for One World Order on YouTube, hundreds and hundreds of
Yeah,
videos,
it's not a
hundreds and
theory.
hundreds of political leaders talking about New World Order.
I'll just
It's
I'll just
not a
interrupt
conspiracy.
you a moment, Maureen. Keep on going about that, because you've done the research and you've presented that part in Falcon Lake. I need to go turn on a light. It's getting dark in here. I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah, One World Order is not um, a conspiracy theory any longer. Um, there's so much evidence to prove the UN agenda with their 17 sustainable goals. Every one of those is tied into One World Order. And every one of those, if you look at explicitly what they're saying in each individual goal, you can see that they're tied into all of the problems we're having today, like poor education, like gender issues, like the environmental issues that we're having, um, the funding for the um, radical environmentalists. All of this is to create division within our country, and for then it's easier for the United Nations or One World Order to come in and take over. And anything that has to do with the UN means that we if we agree to participate, we lose a piece of our sovereignty. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm one person that doesn't want some foreign unelected individual to have a say on what we can and cannot do within our own country. I think it's up to us, the people, that make those decisions for ourselves, and get out of all of those foreign corporation ties that we're in. It's just it's a crazy world, and everything is so evident. And what I'm finding lately is that all of the sharing that we do on social media goes in around and around, but it goes around and around between the people who are already familiar with all of this material. It doesn't go out to the everyday Canadians that don't have a clue about what's going on. And somehow we need to get out in the streets, and we need to get that message out to people rather than just sharing it amongst ourselves, because we all know about the deceit and the deception from our de facto government.
Isn't it so sad at this point in time in 2019? The people have not suffered enough. They fail to understand that there's 50,000 children that dies every day of starvation when we live in a world of plenty.
But
So
if you, hmm, yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. If you though are going to work every day and you're happy in your job and you got a family and you've got obligations and you're not paying attention to the news, you're not aware of all of this. You're just not.
I know, but it was always hidden in plain view. So because there's that one, it's not really magic, but I'm going to use this word still. There's that one little magic trick that they cannot outdo, and it's free will. They need to any which way because it's a system corrupted. They will use fraud, lie, deception, propaganda, and all these bad things to get you to think that something is a fact when in fact it's only a belief, and they cannot uh, act if they don't have our agreement. And as an example of that, for following about the grand jury thing that we've done, Angèle was against the corrupted Quebec Maple Syrup Association when she used to live in Quebec, and they
Right.
tried to pursue her all the way to New Brunswick, where she lives now, which is a different jurisdiction, even in their system. And when she used the grand jury at the Queen's Bench in New Brunswick, where there were, which is the equivalent of the Court of Appeal of the province, she just dumped the grand jury's judgment on top of their desk, and they've studied that for about 10 business day, and they called her and they said, "Come and get your thing. We're not going to allow the prosecution against you here in New Brunswick." So because at that point, and that ties into the free will thing I was about to say, they know they didn't have a consent anymore. When they started prosecuting her or pursuing her or sue her in Quebec, she didn't knew any better. She needed almost 20 years to understand that concept of free will in the end. But yeah, when she said no, no more, you're not going to rape me, they couldn't do anything. Anything.
Yeah,
They
and just
were
a little
blocked
bit of
even their system.
background on that case. It You can find some information in our Falcon Lake video that's posted on our website. But Angèle and her family were artisan maple syrup makers or maple syrup producers. They had just a small operation. It's a native community, and that land has been handed down generation to generation. And so Angèle was working that land with her small maple syrup production, and she wanted freedom of association from the Federation of Maple Producers, and she wasn't able to get that. She didn't want to sell all her syrup to the Federation. She
The
wanted to do
monopoly.
the monopoly. She wanted to, make some artisan products with it and sell them privately. And because she wanted to do that, they were after her. It was a struggle, like you said, for many, many years. And until we, until you got the judgment from the grand jury of 2015, using that judgment took her all the way to the Supreme Court. And there was appeals. I don't know how many times she's been in court, but there was appeals. And in the end, like you say, she won because she stood up to the system, and she used the power of common law in the grand jury to her advantage.
Well, and just to throw in my 2 cents about that matter, and like you said, she inherited that business. She didn't launch it as a business of her choosing. It wasn't handed down to her. It was an artisan level production. It was nothing industrial, uh, which is a little different than a business that you set up willingly. You ask a license for, and you're looking to make profit out of it. When everything is taken in account with that very small production that they had, they weren't really making any money. There was not really a profit
No,
out of it.
no.
If you compare the man hour needed to produce that thing and how they needed to put down money every year to maintain the facility to be able to do that, they really didn't make money out of it. The only way for them to really cash out on that business was to sell the land because of the value that they've added over the year on maintaining the trees and the land. And but yeah, really that business was not making any money. The production was so small. Maybe they'd get a few $1,000s out of every year, but yeah, you don't count the fact that the guy who's handling the so-called business is not being paid for it. You know,
Right.
when you put 16 hour a day to get that thing boiled and bottled up and or canned up. That's why they've created that monopoly in Quebec by having only one entity selling it to the world. They would effectively control the world price, and they would put it at
That's right.
5.99 a 500 millimeter can. Uh, it's
And
over.
that so that then is not the only example of where this goes on. We can look at forestry, we can look at um, the dairy, we can look at the wheat board, all kinds of monopolies that make trade deals and control the prices, and farmers or producers that participate in these organizations have no say.
Yeah, the wheat board is a particular beast to handle. It's been disbanded officially, but it's the same thing, freedom of association to the farmer. But in the end, I'm not, as a personal comment, I'm not against those type of monopoly where because there's kind of two sides of it. Yes, the utmost important thing is freedom of association, but when you do set up a business, that business has no freedom of association. The human behind it do have the freedom of association, but when it's not artisan anymore, like wheat farms are now so big that really they're nothing but commercial, right? So they don't really have that freedom of association. That's why they killed the small time farmer. But
Exactly.
on the other hand, the only positive thing that I see is when you get such a monopoly, you effectively get to drive the price. But now because it's commercial, it's not meant to serve the highest amount of people possible. It's just there for the profit. So there is some right and there is some wrong in these type of setup. So this is why we as people need to come up with a better way of understanding the system first to expose the business scam that there is. But we need also to keep in mind that any business, whatsoever, is a corporation in the end, and they have no freedom of association. They cannot claim that. It's a business. It's not a living being. Once you're involved in commerce, even though you're the owner and you're a human behind it, you have no freedom. You have to obey what the rule is, whatever that rule is, and I'm not stating any rule in particular. But when you're doing something out of your living room, it is different. It's a one-man business, like pretty much that's what Angel business, or I don't hate to use the word business in our case, but that was Angel Production was a one-man show. There would be only one person to work in it because a few people would give a hand a few hours or a few weeks in a year because it's very limited in time when you can effectively get that syrup and boil it up. Doesn't change really anything. It's just like if I'm creating, I don't know, whatever. I'm making drawings, postal card, for example. And once a year, I need a few of my cousin and sisters and brother to come and help me up to put all the production in boxes to do whatever for a shipping. Technically speaking, it's still an artisan production. So
Right.
how do we split up what is commercial and what is not is a touchy thing. But in the end, when you look at the bigger picture, it doesn't change anything. The corporation has no freedom. They have to obey. The people do have freedom. They're not bound by the rule because they were born as free human. And we still need a system to manage the corporation. We do need that, but now the system is being used against the human instead of limiting the corporation, and that is a
Right.
fraud. So how do we put things back up is the question that I've raised by creating the SRPC. And I've given you, the member of it, the freedom to do that. The how are we going to put the system back up together, because the system is there to use and it's a good system when you look at it, when you study it deeply. The fact that the corporation, sorry, my mistake in this, the Constitution of Canada is there. It's really clear. It tells you what to do, but it does not tell you how to do it.
No, that's the hard part. There is no rule book. Well,
On
there is a
how to.
rule book, but there's no playbook.
That's it. There's
So
a
these
rule
are the
book on
rules.
what to do, but it
Yeah.
doesn't tell you how to do it. Just like when you go play hockey, you cannot cross-check, but you can use any which way, which is not limited, to put the puck in the net.
So when we're trying to recruit people to join us to help us build the plan, they want to know how we're going to do it, and we want them to come on board and help us develop a plan.
I know, and
It's
it's
one of
been the
it's one of the harder points to get across. Like,
I know, and I've had that problem too when I literally wrote down the Constitution for the grand jury. I had that problem when I figured out that there was a problem with the Constitution of Canada. I came up with the SRPC idea and the naming of a king. But if you're looking for Denis the First, the king, to tell you what to do, once again we get back to dictatorship and tyranny. I want to avoid that, and that was clear in the claim of right. He's not going to tell you what to do, but if you're not doing the right thing, he's going to kick you out, because in the end it is society. And society, when if we relate a brief moment back to legalese, is a non-living entity. It's another type of corporation. The only difference between this society, the SRPC, and all of the rest of society is that there is no commercial license. In order to
right,
operate the SRPC, there was no application for a license of operation anywhere.
because we don't want to participate in that system.
No, because that system is rigged and corrupted, and we want to
Right.
put an end to it. That's the end game of it. Put an end to the corrupted, rigged system. So, yeah, I've kept an open door for the people like you to step in the SRPC, use your free will on how we're going to make this work in Canada, for the country of Canada, to the benefits of everyone.
So
I
I'm
can't
only
answer
one
that.
mind. Our group is few. We need some bright individuals with some innovative ideas to join us, and let's get this moving already. We have so many people coming to us saying, when are you going to do something? When are you going to do
We
something?
do,
Well, we're such a small group.
and
We
we do
need.
something every day, Maureen. We put our mind into it. And I know you've been desperate over the last few days because you've been thinking about it. So you're effectively doing something. It's not because I'm not pushing a puck that I'm not thinking about how to push a puck. I'm still doing something. And thinking is an undervalued idea so much now today. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
here just thinking about things. It looks like from your point of view that I'm doing nothing, but I'm doing something.
right. We're researching, we're putting out articles, we're building pamphlets for handouts, we're doing all kinds of things behind the scenes. But we really do need some more individuals to step up and let's get started. Let's build our Senate.
Well,
So then we need.
that's the current step. So if people are considering to do something, yes, there are 105 Senate positions to be filled. What's the role of the Senate? It's to look at the law that have been written down by the legislature or the House of Commons, and to put a stop. Well, actually, the Senate is only the House of Commons, right? It's not related to legislature, but and to put a stop to it before it gets adopted. This way, there's no need for a trial after that if something is unconstitutional. And that,
So their job is to review all proposed legislation, make sure it abides by the Constitution,
yes,
and either yay or nay based on that review.
yes, yes,
And one of the first things we want to prepare for the Senate is our common law. the use of common law or returning common law back to our court system.
It needs to be done. And talking about common law, I'd like to emphasize on the urgency of reestablishing grand jury for civilian matter. There was some proposal made to do grand jury in every province with their local matter, and I'd like to see that reestablished. Or maybe we can join in one Canada-wide grand jury, and some of the utmost urgent stuff is the Bank of Canada, the Canada Post,
BC ferries,
the railways,
the
well,
railway.
BC Ferry is too specific to my taste. I hate to use that, but
Oh, so you're looking at national
it's related
agendas.
to the highway in some kind, because BC is a coastal province, of course, and there's many islands. We can't build highway from Vancouver to every island that exists, right? This is why BC Ferry was created. But it's the same thing in Prince Edward Island, the Confederation Bridge that there is there. I mean, it was a good idea to link it because there's a smaller population and only one island called Prince Edward Island. But where I think it needs to be settled as a national issue is that when the people who live in Prince Edward Island are stuck on this island because they charge $50 to get back on, because it's free to get out, but it's $50 to go back in, or the other way around. Don't get me wrong, I don't live there, I've never been there, but I know there's a fee to cross that bridge. How is it that measure of charging people not being an hostage situation? If you don't have that $50, you can go back home. Same thing for people who live in Vancouver on Vancouver Island. I agree to the fact, and let's presume for a moment, I agree to the fact that tourists and business have to pay to get on board those BC ferry. But the people who were born in Nanaimo or Ladysmith or whatever town that there is on Vancouver Island, Victoria, Esquimalt, everywhere, why do they have to pay to get on and off? I think that's an insanity. The guy is prisoner, or the girl is prisoner, or the bear is prisoner of the island because there's BC ferry and you have to pay $200 to get on and off. That makes no sense. If I go
Well,
there as a tourist with my RV and trailer, yes, it's normal that I have to pay. I have no reason to be there, but for my own pleasure, yes, it's normal that I pay. It's normal that Canadian Tire, when they cross a shipment of tire, they get to pay.
we have these restrictions on transportation across Canada. In BC, you might want to talk about BC ferries, but in the prairies, there is no longer a system of transportation that connects the small communities to the big cities. So if you live in a small rural community and let's say you have a health issue like cancer and you have to go to the city for your treatments, it's hell on earth. You're having to bother your neighbors for rides or however you do it. But there's lots of people that are struggling with this right now. So it's not only they're held hostage as well because there's not a reliable means of transportation for everybody. Yeah, it's a
The,
tough world. It's a tough.
the reason is always the same. First, it's control by the mean of money. It's all related to that. All of it related to control of the people, to pin them down so they can't do anything.
Mhm.
You've stated the health issue, but it might be as simple as getting to the grocery store. If the grocery store is not in a walkable distance and you didn't pay your driver's license for whatever reason, you're basically prisoner.
That's right. And there are some small communities that don't have grocery stores. So you're having to drive an hour to go get your groceries
Well,
each week.
it is the case in my village.
Exactly.
There is a grocery store in my village, but it's so small it doesn't have all the stuff that really I need or eat. They have more chips and pop in two full row than real stuff that I can be fed on. I mean, the vegetable here, there is some, but there's a high premium on it because of the distance delivery. Plus, we get the cheap stuff, the thing that doesn't look good. And if I buy something at that grocery, if I didn't cook it within 3 days, I've lost it. Not only did I
Right.
paid more, so in effect, I am prisoner. And even here in this very tiny community, I can't even walk to the grocery store, so far it is. It is
Right.
still far. It's still 3 kilometers from here. I can't really walk with my bag from my groceries, so therefore I need a driver's license or to pay a cab. Therefore, I need money to be able to live. It's insanity to
Right.
pay to
And
live. I didn't ask to come in this fucking world in the first place. Why do I have to pay my way into it? I should be paid, and it is my case, so I have nothing to complain about. I am being paid to live. I receive a lifetime pension, a life pension. So it's not a death pension. So in my case, it's a little different. But for people like you need to go and work. Why do you have to fucking pay to be alive?
that's
Because
the
everything
system
is
we're in.
based, well, that's it. And we need to put an option for the people to now realize that yes, we've been living in a corrupted world. Now you know. All right, okay, we could waste 100 years making this trial, or we can already skip to the next trial. So I'm gonna shut the stream on that. We got 4 minutes left before the hour, so I'm gonna make a call, and I'm gonna actually put the word into your mouth for you to make a call for people of goodwill and good intent. We don't need you if you're a rotten, stupid asshole and you want to control shit. You know where to go. There's a system that works fine for you. But I'm going to put the word in your mouth so for you to make a call of people of goodwill and good intent without any promise from our part. And I'm speaking on behalf of the SRPC here, uh, of you getting anything from it. But if you want at least to use your free will on your own time, step up and put in place a new type of system. Where will it go? The fuck if I know. I'd like to tell you, but I'm not going to do that because I'm a partisan of freedom, of free will. So get your back into it. Let's stop the insanity. Join on board that new ship, which is not sinking, and let's see where it leads us. Otherwise, you know exactly where it leads, where you're going to end up. That ship that you've been on board and fucked up with since you've been born is sinking, and nobody's
It's
doing a thing
sinking.
about it. Everybody is in the canteen just going through the refrigerator and pillaging everything instead of being down there on the lower deck, which has a big fucking hole into it. And everybody's arguing who's going to plug the hole? Who's going to plug the hole? The ship is fucking sinking. It's too late. There's bridge all the way up to there's water all the way up to the bridge. It's sinking and there's not enough life raft for all of you. There is not. But there's a brand new ship right there and you choose not to see it. You can just go in the water for a moment, wet yourself. Yeah, it's going to be unpleasant for a moment, realizing you've been fucked up with since you've been born. I know, I've been there. I've realized that I've been fucked up one day, and I said to myself, here I have a choice. Either I keep on collaborating with the sinking ship, blinding myself to the detriment of everybody else on board, or I can build that new ship. Now I've built that new ship for everybody to jump on it, but we don't want pirates anymore on it.
And what I keep thinking too is now that you know about all of the deception, you have a responsibility for future generations, for your family to make things right. Not only a responsibility, but you have the right
A
and
moral
the
duty.
responsibility.
You've got a
It's
moral
your
duty.
duty,
Yes, you've
a
got a moral
moral
duty,
duty.
and you're not
Yeah,
going to be paid for it. I have not
no.
been paid for everything that I've done. The only reason I've been paid is what I've done for the corrupted system that I worked for before. And I have a commercial contract with them, and they
And
better hold on to it.
many hands make less work too. You know, if we can get people on board and split up the duties and move things along,
Yes,
it's going to grow
but
exponentially.
that's how a ship is being steered. There's no need for having 20 people steering the ship. There's only need to be one. But we do need people in the some mechanics down in the engine room. We do need electrician to make sure that the decks are properly lightened. We need people to clean up the linen. We need cook to cook the food. And I know I am fully in the commercial universal commercial code by stating it is a ship, but it's the best analogy. A ship cannot go forward with one single man. There is a
Right.
captain on it, but if everybody do their duty, I know I was a sailor. Never, ever when I was a sailor, the captain had to come up to me and say, Fortin, are you doing your shit correctly? Because he knew he could rely and trust me that I would be doing my own thing. And it was correct. And in effect, in the position where I was the one giving order more than him giving me order. I was the eye of the ship. I made sure that this ship didn't hit a fucking rock. Because in the fog, the guy that is steering upstairs doesn't see where he's going. He has no idea. He has a little joystick in his hand, and he cannot even see above the bridge window. I'm the one manhandling the radar down below, and I'm the one calling him, move 6 degrees to port because there's a rock straight ahead of us. Nobody had to tell me, oh, by the way, make sure you're looking at the radar screen. I am looking at the radar screen. Screen. So this is the way it's done, and I know it related to commerce, but it's in order to put an end to the monetization of everything because the root of all evil today is money. And it's a measure of control, just like a hammer is used to hit on nail. It doesn't know anything else. It has no other purpose. You cannot screw a screw with a hammer. It's meant to hit on a nail. So it's the same thing today. Money is invented for you to be a slave. And it's a good scam when you think about it. It's an intelligent scam. You're still a slave. The only difference is you don't get to get whipped by it. So they're influencing on your free will. Oh yeah, I'm gonna go work for money because I think it has value. Well, here's your first mistake. It has no value. The
Yeah.
real value is you working. It is the sweat, tear, blood, and
Your energy.
your energy. That's what they're harvesting. Yes. And they put an interest attached to it. So enough of that. I didn't launch
So we
this.
kind of went all over the place, but I guess what
It's an emergency. That's why we've done it
it's
that
an
way.
emergency. We were able to show you lots of deception. We need to get this right, and we need to move forward,
And
and we need your participation.
it shows something, Maureen. On behalf of the SRPC, there's no plan. It's an improvisation.
It is.
We walk and we see what's ahead of us, and then we take another step and we see what's ahead of us. That's it. There's no plan for us. If you're looking for us to read the fucking memo about how we're gonna save the world, I got good news for you. We have no memo, so you won't have to work reading it. Just step on and put your back into it the way we are doing it now. Because if you're waiting for me to give you order, the very first order that I'll give to you is you won't like any of the other order I'm about to give you. And that's just about it. You want a tyranny? I'll be your voluntary tyrant. You won't like anything I have to say. This is exactly why when I created this RPC, I've asked for the first volunteer to be king because I didn't self-appoint myself. I asked who here in this room wants to be king. Okay, I admit it happens that when I did that, there was only one other person in the room, which was Denis Paiement, aka Denis Premier. All right, yeah, I admit that. But if I had the access key to the Olympic Stadium in Montreal and was able to gather 55,000 people, I would have asked those 55,000 people, who here wish to be king? We have an empty seat here. But I could not at that point in my life. So, and it was, remember, I'm going to close on that, but we did a renewal of the claim of right in Falcon Lake, Manitoba, that last June, right?
Yes, we did.
And effectively, what did we do in that room? I've asked everybody in the room, anybody here wish to be king? I've asked, or queen, because that's the
Yeah.
way.
No.
Nobody step
Mm,
up. So
no.
what did you little caucus of people did? You've all looked at Denis Paiement, aka
It
Denis
said, "Will you
Premier.
please be king for another 5 years?"
Yeah. So was he self-appointed? Never.
No.
He didn't say I'm going to be king. No. He didn't in fact even wanted to be king. But since he was the only one in the room at that time, he said, well, I don't think I have a choice, really. The seat's empty, and I'm the only one here to answer the fucking question. And in Falcon Lake, it was even more beautiful because there was 14 people in that room asking, please, would you be king? So here's the legitimate. It was done. It was morally necessary. So now it's up to you. Come and serve your country. Don't expect for anything in return but the truth. but at least we are here before you. We were there, and now I'm talking back against, not against, but for the on behalf of the SRPC. None of you have been killed or threatened, right?
Right.
So where's the
Well,
danger? There's none. The only thing that
everything has been done legally. It's been notarized. Everything that's been done after it's been notarized has been sent to the proper authorities. All the
well, the
documentation is
the
public.
beauty of it, not Maureen, is that the authority that you just mentioned, they're no authority, and we could have
Well,
done it without the notary because he's part of the coup that has happened. So if you cannot realize there was a coup d'état in Canada, like I said earlier, you need urgent invasive psychiatric help. And it's really an emergency. So that's why there was a call today for a national emergency, which do not grant the SRPC more or less power than they already had. They are the only legal, lawful, constitutional, and morally necessary structure in this country today and for the past almost 100 years, at least 88 years. Because here, and I'm going to close on that, I'm going to put my favorite citation back on the board from Russell Roger Smith in 1937, if I can get it quickly, if I'm on the right page, why is there so many blank page?
it's right at the end, isn't it?
Yes. All right, here we go. Sorry for the lightning. Federation. First of all, power must be conferred upon appointed representative, the people in Falcon Lake, right, of the province, so as to carry on the government of Canada and with the power to call an election as soon as possible after the Constitution has been ratified by the people of each and all the provinces. So that's going to be the next step after the Senate is properly founded or established the way it should have been. There's going to be an election. Meanwhile, there is a Canada Corp election ongoing as I speak now. As it was called on October 17, 2015 in Cowansville, Quebec. That election has no validity. They are the de facto election. That doesn't mean we have the power to stop them. They can do them if they want because we don't have the mean to stop them. But these one, as the one in 2015, are illegal. It is an illegal act. It is fraudulent. They have not signed the Constitution of Canada, not in 1982, not at Lake Meech, and not certainly not at Charlottetown. And they're not representative of the people. They are a bunch of fraud and liar and crooks and pirates and whatever you want to call them. And it's enough of them. But the SRPC will not take upon them. They are pirates. We're going to do as they did to the people of Canada. We're going to plainly ignore them. Not to say that we're not going to yell out loud that they are crooks, because that's easy enough. They're crooks and criminals. But we're not going to take on them. They can remain free in the street. They are a naked clown. They have no costume. They have no makeup. Their jokes are boring. And we've had enough of it. So now it's time to move on and go play another game. So welcome to the SRPC to all people of goodwill and good intent. As for the other, well, I'd like to say fuck you, but it's gonna be anyway.
Well, it's too bad our counterparts in the east are having issues with electrical today. It would have been nice to have them on as well, but thank you for your time.
Well, next meeting, Maureen, I'm going to publish that right away on the SRPC website and possibly to my own channel because it's been a while since I've published there. Next meeting is on Sunday,
Correct.
and we're going to try to have as many people as we can at this time. And as for the moment, we're 1 hour, 10 minutes in to the recording. I'm going to shut it down. It's been productive. Is it been productive? I don't know.
We'll
Uh,
see.
but we'll see. I know one thing is I'm not dead yet, even though most of the day I wish I was, because then I wouldn't have to look at all these stupid fucking issues. Uh, But I know one thing, for as long as this system go on, I'm prisoner of my house. Effectively, I don't want to go out. I don't want to participate in any of that bullshit. Even the 1 day a month I go to the bank and grocery, I hate it to death. I wish I would not have to do it. But I've been prisoner of my house for now almost 7 years. And I'll be for the remaining of my life if things don't change. And if things don't change, well, for one, I'm being paid to be alive. So my interest is to shut my mouth, not do a thing about it, wish that the system keeps on going for as long as it can, because by this system, I have 32 slaves in the world that do nothing else but to serve me. So I should be happy, but I'm not. I'm not. It's money doesn't make me happy at all. At all. I see it, there's a system of slavery and I've got enough with it. And I wish that everybody is free. That's the day that I'll be happy. Meanwhile, I'm a prisoner and I don't like it. I'm no better than other which are in jail, not because I have access to my computer and I can open the blinds and I can freely walk on my balcony. If I don't pay that freaking rent 1 month, I won't have any of this. So let's put an end to the corruption, to the fraud. Let's do this together. Otherwise, you know what to expect. And I've been shouting it up for 7 years. I'm tired. I'm really tired.
I hear your message loud and clear.
Thank you. It's up to you. I'm gonna stop the recording, but not before I humbly say, wish a good day in a fucked up world to all the people who are going to be watching this once we put it up on the broadcast YouTube, on the broadcast system. Sorry. And if you don't do a thing, I'll wish you good luck because I've always considered that luck was a lame excuse for the loser. I'm no loser. I don't count on luck. I use my free will and I get away with it. I'm not dead, but if they want to send the people after my own, do it quickly. Make sure that I die on the moment. Don't torture me. I've been tortured for 43 years now that I've been living in this hellhole. So thank you very much for your patience toward us.
Okay,
We are the messenger.
next time, give me just a little bit of notice so that I can fix my hair before I come on, all right?
Your hair are looking great. So, all right, I'll do that.
Thank you.
I'll give you 3 minutes notice instead of 30 seconds. But
All right,
you know,
better than nothing.
do upon other what you wish to be done upon yourself. I had 30 seconds notice to arrange this thing with you.
Oh,
Otherwise, it would have been with other people with which had day, but we can't predict the electricity. But you know, when we don't have it, you get nothing done. So yeah,
all right.
we haven't spoken too much about that issue, but electricity is one benefit of the corrupted society that we have now. This has to be preserved, but yeah, because yes, I like the electrical light, and I like to be able to listen to music through my computer, and you know, even these broadcasts, I like doing them. It's it's energy consuming a lot, but I like doing them. It's not because I want to be famous. It's just because one of my higher quality is my big mouth. So I'm capable of doing it. So yes,
You're a great technical supporter for the
I do
society.
master my big mouth. Even if I can't control it, I master it. So language, I've been using a million words. I'm a master. Thank you very much, people watching this. And sorry for no, I'm not sorry. So I'll try to give you a longer notice next time.
Thanks.
Unlike the fucking de facto who've had over 4 year of notice. All
Yeah,
right, I'm
exactly.
stopping the recording. Stay online. All right, people of Canada, love and light to you
Good
and to
night.
your family, and stay free. Yeah, be free. Sorry. Good day.